The Arctic wind bit at their faces, but sweat glistened on the foreheads of Nuka and his younger brother Inuk. Time and again, Nuka braced his paddle, flicked his hips, and attempted to sweep his body back to the surface, only to slip beneath the icy dark of the fjord once more. Inuk pulled him up by his bow, both brothers breathing heavily. To secure their place among the village's seal hunters, they needed to master the role, to turn panic into grace. Yet the water felt less like an ally, and more like a heavy, unyielding wall. Watching from the snow-lined shore sat old Kasa, the village's most respected elder, alongside Angakuk, the shaman. Sensing the brothers' frustration, Angakuk stepped to the water's edge, his gaze fixed not on the icy depths, but on the delicate film where air met sea. "You fight the water as if it were a beast to be wrestled," Angakuk said, his voice carrying clearly across the quiet bay. He gestured for the brothers to bring their kayaks close to the shore. "Come, touch it with your palms, not your paddles." Nuka and Inuk rested their skin-on-frame kayaks against the rocks and reached out, pressing their bare fingers against the water's skin. "What do you feel?" asked old Kasa, his eyes filled with quiet warmth. "Cold," Inuk admitted, shaking his head. "And heavy. It is heavy because you see it only as depth," Angakuk explained, leaning down to swirl a hand through the glassy calm. "The surface is not a wall, nor is it merely a boundary. It is the sacred mirror, the thin skin that holds two worlds together. Above is the realm of breathing men, of sky and sun. Below is the world of Sedna, where the seal spirits dance and feed. The surface is where life touches spirit." The shaman's eyes brightened with passion as he spoke of the surface's subtle magic. "To roll a kayak, you do not force your way through the surface. You rest upon it. The surface has tension, a skin formed by the breath of the sea. When you sweep your paddle, you are not pulling against the weight of the ocean. You are leaning into that sacred skin. You must trust it to hold you, just as the seal trusts it when breaking through to catch its breath." Old Kasa nodded, smiling gently at the young hunters. When a hunter lies flat on his deck for a chest skull, or a forward finishing roll, he surrenders to the surface. Feel how the water lifts you if you do not fight it. It wants to support you. It wants to return you to the sky. Angakuk closed his eyes, invoking the grander vision of their ancestors. When you go beneath, do not panic in the dark. Honor the underrealm. Greet the sea spirits with calm breath. Then, when your hips flick and your paddle sweeps, feel yourself riding the surface tension, like a seabird skimming the crest of a wave. The surface is your bridge between living and hunting, between mortal strength and spiritual grace. Inspired by the elder's compassion and the shaman's enthusiasm, Nuka took a slow breath and pushed out into the fjord once more. He capsized deliberately, entering the cold, silent world below. But this time, he did not fight the sea. Remembering Angakuk's words, he felt the boundary above him, the shimmering, sacred skin of the ocean. With a relaxed, rhythmic flick of his hips, Nuka swept his paddle along the surface tension. The water lifted him instantly, sliding him effortlessly back up into the air. He broke into the sunlight, laughing, finally understanding the sacred dance between the hunter, his kayak, and the skin of the sea. The elders stepped into the knee-deep water, the cold biting at their skin, but their eyes glowed with fierce enthusiasm. Angakuk reached down and placed both hands just below the water's surface, pushing up against the invisible resistance of the fjord. "You treat the water like an obstacle you must climb back onto," Angakuk said, his voice rising with excitement. "You are missing its true secret. Look at how it pushes back. The surface is not just a ceiling, it is a compressed spring, an upward breath waiting to burst." Old Kasa waded closer, slapping the surface lightly to show how the water reacted. "When you go underwater, the deep realm wants to throw you back out. The sea is denser than your body, and lighter than your fear. The moment you turn upside down, the ocean is already trying to push you up to the sun. It wants to cradle your chest and buoy your head." Angakuk leaned over Inuk's kayak, placing a hand under the hull. "Feel this force. It is the breath of the spirits beneath, lifting you. When you roll, you do not pull yourself up with your arms or paddle. You simply release your hold on the dark, align your body with the surface, and let the sea's natural spring kick you upward. Your hips do not pull, they merely guide the energy that the water is already offering you." Inuk's eyes widened, as he felt the dynamic lift against the side of his skin-on-frame boat. "It's pushing me?" "Yes," Angakuk laughed, his voice ringing across the fjord. "The surface tension and buoyancy are a violent, loving force. It is an upward current, waiting for you to unleash it. Stop fighting the depth, and let the sea propel you into the air." Angakuk smiled, stepping deeper into the water until it lapped against his waist. "Now, you must learn to rest upon the sea without moving a muscle. The balance brace, the static brace, will teach your body that you do not need strength to stay afloat. You only need geometry, flexibility, and trust. He pulled Inuk's kayak closer, resting a gentle, guiding hand on the boy's shoulder. First, you must unlock your core, Ungakuk instructed, his voice alive with passion. Do not fight the kayak's frame. Twist your hips and seat 90 degrees to the boat. Slide one buttock forward so your chest turns fully to the sky. This rotation opens your chest and lets your shoulders lay flat against the surface tension. Old Casa leaned over the cockpit, adjusting Inuk's posture. Yes, feel that rotation. Once your body is turned, lay back. Do not hold your head up in fear. The weight of a heavy head will pull you straight down into the deep. Arch your spine, Ungakuk urged passionately. Feel a continuous, fluid stretch extending all the way from your tailbone to your eyebrows. Let your head drop back into the sea until the icy water covers your temples and your eyebrows stay resting just beneath the surface. Inuk took a deep breath and leaned back over the gunwale into the water. As he opened his shoulders wide against the surface and let his head sink back, his lungs filled with air. To his amazement, the sea held him. His shoulder blades rested comfortably on the water's skin, his kayak sitting on its side, fully stable, surface of the water. Look at him, old Casa beamed, clapping his hands together. No paddle work. No frantic straining. His lungs are 2 air bladders, his chest is a raft, and the sea's buoyancy is doing every bit of the work. If you feel yourself begin to sink, Ungakuk added softly, demonstrating with a gentle sweeping motion of his hand, you do not panic. You simply execute a small, feathering motion with your paddle blade, side sculling. A gentle, figure 8 sweep across the skin of the water will create just enough lift to maintain your balance while your body remains effortlessly afloat. Nuka watched his younger brother floating effortlessly, half submerged yet completely calm, anchored to the surface of the world by nothing more than an open chest, a stretched spine, and the gentle push of the ocean beneath him. Nuka adjusted his posture, feeling the wood frame pressed against his knees. So when we are laid flat in the balance brace, our lower body is what locks the boat into position. Exactly, Inuk said, his eyes lighting up as he remembered the feeling. You aren't just floating your upper body, you're controlling the hull with your legs. To keep the kayak resting flat on its side, you drive your water leg up against the deck Nemasik, while pushing your air leg down into the floor. Nuka nodded, engaging his thigh muscles against the interior ribs. It creates a counter-torque. By pulling up with the knee submerged in the sea and pressing down with the leg exposed to the sky, you lock your hips straight and prevent the kayak from rolling out from under you. Yes, Inuk exclaimed, slapping the surface of the water. The legs hold the boat stable at 90 degrees, while your spine stretch and open shoulders let the sea's buoyancy lift your chest. You become one continuous lever from your toes to your forehead. The cold wind no longer felt like a threat, as the 4 of them made their way back up the rocky shoreline, toward the warm glow of the village. Nuka and Inuk walked alongside the elders, carrying their skin-on-frame kayaks effortlessly, their hearts light and full of newfound trust in the water. We thought the sea was something to overcome, Nuka said, turning to Ungakuk and Old Casa with deep gratitude. You showed us it's an extension of ourselves. Knowing how to let the surface hold us changes everything. Inuk smiled, looking out over the quiet bay with a confidence he had never felt before. Tomorrow, when we hunt, we won't be fighting the deep. We'll be riding it. Old Casa placed a warm hand on each boy's shoulder as they entered the camp, where the smell of burning driftwood and stewed meat welcomed them home. You were never weak, my boys, the old hunter said gently. You just needed to remember that the ocean is not a tomb. It is our home, and it always wants to bring you back to the sky. In traditional Greenland kayaking, bracing techniques were the first line of defense against the freezing Arctic waters. While rolling was a necessary recovery skill, preventing a capsize altogether kept the paddler dry, stable, and capable of handling hunting gear. Low brace, ikusamik. The low brace was the most frequently used support stroke for immediate, real-time stability. Technique. The paddler holds the paddle low over the water with knuckles facing up and elbows high. The back, flat side, of the narrow Greenland blade slaps or pushes down against the water's surface to create a temporary platform of support. It's high brace, patek, and sculling braces. The high brace and continuous sculling brace offered high power support when a capsize was almost inevitable. Technique. The paddler raises the paddle chest high, holding it with elbows down and palms up, sweeping or slapping the power face of the blade flat against the water while executing a strong hip snap, pujornek, to right the hull. Primary role. Recovering from severe leans, navigating heavy surf along rocky shorelines, or stabilizing the kayak while landing large sea mammals. Practicality. Extended sculling braces, where the paddle blade is continuously swept back and forth across the water surface, allowed a paddler to hover suspended horizontally on the water. This was crucial when tying off heavy catches or untangling harpoon lines without needing to sit completely upright. Environmental and hunting practicality. In an unassisted cold water environment, bracing served 3 critical survival functions. 1. Deck stability during hauls. A Greenland kajak has extremely low initial stability. When hauling a heavy ringed seal or bearded seal alongside the cockpit, a paddler would lean into a continuous scull or brace, using the water's resistance to hold the boat level under asymmetrical loads. 2. Preventing cold exposure. Even with a sealed sealskin jacket, Twi'lek, going upside down risked water entering around the face or breaking the cockpit seal. A solid brace preserved vital body heat. 3. Weapon readiness. Bracing with a paddle held in one hand or across the lap allowed hunters to maintain stability while manipulating harpoons, floats, and lances with the other. One-handed bracing was a crucial skill for Greenland hunters, allowing them to stabilize their narrow kayaks while keeping one hand free to manage weapons, lines, or prey. Technique and mechanics. Extended paddle grip. The paddler holds the paddle near one end rather than the middle, drastically increasing leverage on the water. Continuous sculling. By sweeping the blade back and forth across the water surface in a shallow figure-8 motion, the paddler creates constant hydrodynamic lift. Body anchor. The hunter leans their torso low against the back deck or into the water, using their body weight and the blade's lift to form a stable tripod between the kayak, their body, and the paddle. Practical applications. Harpoon and line management. After striking a seal, a hunter used one hand to quickly feed out the line and toss the inflated float, avatak, without capsizing, securing the catch. While lashing a heavy seal to the deck or bleeding the catch, the hunter maintained a one-handed scull to keep the tippy vessel level against asymmetrical weight. Emergency weapon recovery. If a weapon slipped or a line tangled, the hunter could lean far over the gunwale to retrieve gear directly from the freezing water while remaining right side up. Among modern recreational kayakers, one-handed bracing and sculling are extremely rare, mastered almost exclusively by advanced Greenland-style roles enthusiasts and instructors. Historically, however, it was a standard survival skill for traditional Inuit hunters, who practiced it from childhood until it became second nature.